you want to learn how to transition to a barefoot or minimal shoe, check this out. Before we can even talk about using a shoe like this Zero, we have to make sure we are activating our intrinsic foot muscles and our arches. So in order to activate your arches and turn these arches on, we're actually going to start with some toe yoga just to make sure you have some dexterity in your feet and toes. So all this looks like is I'm going to press my big toe down into the ground, 4 toes up, 4 toes down, big toe up. I'm going to transition between this and try to go for 10 on each side. Start with the right, go to the left. I'll show you from the side. We're not really trying to get too much arch activation here, excuse me. We're just trying to, I just want to know, hey, we've been wearing shoes our whole lives. Can we just make sure our toes are not just all stuck together and we can actually move these and exactly have some dexterity between them? And I promise, this is 100% doable. Every human, all of us should be able to do this. Sometimes people can move their pinky toes. That's special. Or maybe you can move each toe separately. That's a bonus, but we have a spot dedicated in our brain to be able to move the big toe separately. It has its own muscles compared to these 4. So this is 100% doable for every single runner, every single person. Second thing we can do is start to press our big toe into the ground. And I love to start this way. I'll take my finger and I'll place it underneath my big toe here. And I hope you guys can see my arch. I'm going to press my big toe. I'll get over here so you guys can see better. I'm going to press my big toe into the ground. As I press, I hope you guys can appreciate this arch is rising, the muscles are contracting. I'm going to relax. And you can actually feel the pressure on your nail bed here on your finger. That's why I love using my finger here. Press down. 1, 2, 3. Relax. 1, 2, 3. And relax. A great way to start to get this arch active. And the third thing we can do is what I call the short foot exercise. Some people call it arch doming, whatever you want to call it. You can leave the finger here if you want. Eventually, I like to take it away. But we're going to press the big toe into the ground. And I'm actually really concentrating. I'm thinking about raising my arch up in the air, contracting this. And actually, if you look at my toe here, as I do this, the foot will actually shorten a little bit. So I'll go from like a size 10.5 to a 10. Simply just by pressing my toe down and raising my arch in the air. So when you think about shorten the foot, that's also a cue you can use. And doing these for around 10 repetitions, hold for 3 to 5 seconds, are great ways to say, hey, let's start to improve this arch activation. One thing to keep in mind, don't let this happen. Don't scrunch it. Don't let these tendons flare up as you're performing these exercises. Once you start to press that big toe into the ground and start to feel it activate and work, then we can start to add some balance exercises on, like this pass-through exercise, where I have around a 10 to 15-pound kettlebell, standing on one leg. I'm focusing on pressing my big toe to the ground. I'm passing away from side to side. Maintaining that arch as I'm performing these. Perform single leg Romanian deadlifts as well. Again, focusing on pressing that big toe down to the ground. I want to make it even more challenging. You can get something like the mobile board. It's a balance board. That's going to help improve. It's going to challenge and improve your arch activation even more by forcing you to use that big toe. Now, once you spend some time activating your big toe and your arches, this can be 3 weeks, this can be a month. That tends to be a good time frame. Then we can say, hey, let's take this shoe, we can put this thing on, and we can start to walk around in it. The reason why we want to make sure our arches are active is, as I'm walking around and moving with this Zero barefoot shoe on, my big toe is it's constantly pressing into the ground. It's not so hard that I can't get a good push off because my big toe has to extend, but it's enough to where, man, I feel my arches are active, and it keeps me stable, keeps me in a good position. Where as my arches cave in, knees cave in, and my butt actually tends to want to stick out, and actually it turns my core off. So think about, hey, as I'm walking, I'm standing on one leg, I'm moving, that big toe, it's pressing into the ground. Think of like a 30% contraction. Last but not least, once you spend some time walking, let's say give it another month, we can start to add these plyometrics on, which is as I'm jumping in the air and landing, my big toe has to press into the ground to help catch me in that as I'm pressing aggressively up. Now, once you spend some time walking around in these shoes, the next step is to perform plyometrics. Before we get into running, something like this alternating plyo, 20 reps, hit the ground aggressively. It's a fantastic exercise to do, A, as a runner, but B, hey, we're trying to get used to these shoes, focusing on as I hit the ground aggressively, that big toe has to press into the ground, has to press harder to the ground because we're hitting the ground so hard, which is, again, getting us ready for this load when we're running.